Hi guys, I'm Jasmine from TDU, and I am here to do the critique for Yujong today. So let's get started. Yujong, you submitted two images, this ball guy here, and this character. So I know that you mentioned that you were going to include some more references and give an update, but I thought I would go through and give you a quick review while you're doing that. And it's great that you mentioned references, because that was actually going to be my first comment, is it's really hard to critique this without reference and seeing what the goal is. But in general, I'm just going to do a general critique about character lighting, and I'll wait for your references. So when I was looking at this sphere here, and one, I gather that you know this now, but a sphere seems really deceiving because it'd be easy to light, you would think, but it's actually pretty hard to get that nice shaping on it. And I think you did a great job. I love the rim that you have going on here, and the key is hitting really well. You're getting some shaping here. The first thing I did notice, though, is that your fill right here, it's feeling a little bit, your fill side here, this line here is feeling a little bit harsh. And see how you're just getting kind of this strange shape here instead of like a smooth, round shaped sphere. And I mean, it's hard to say because I don't know what the goal was. Maybe you are going for a more dramatic lighting scenario, but even so, I would say that the key light is probably swung around a little too much, because we're not even getting that much of a dark side here. It's kind of wrapping up on the top, but then it's a little awkward how it is just slightly on the fill side. It's not filled all the way to one side, it's just like a little bit of it. I was looking for reference myself, and I remember when I lit Charlie Brown in Peanuts that this was a constant thing, because, I mean, essentially Charlie Brown's head is a big round sphere, and it was very tricky getting shaping on his head. Granted, this is more of a stylized look, and it's definitely a little bit, I don't want to say flatter, but not as dramatic in shape as, and I mean not as many fills, and not as many dark fills. But even here, you see that there's nice shaping across this. And this was achieved by, a key light, but then using the key wrap too, along with a nice fill light. But you see how there's no sharp kind of shadow edges, kind of how we see right here. It's kind of a nice smooth transition. And we are using that rim a lot on the fill side, which you have. One thing I will say about this rim, though, is that it can go up in intensity, because if you look, you differentiate it by, the color. Also, sometimes the rim is often more cool or warm, depending on what the key side is. But also, in many cases, as you'll see in the next example, the rim light is often higher in intensity. So I think you could definitely go ahead and go higher in intensity here on the rim light. Another thing I will say, what drew my eye is we look for what the brightest spot is and where essentially my eye is drawn, right? So in this scenario, what is the brightest spot? The brightest spot is actually this foot here, and it is up here too, but I'm kind of distracted by this bright foot. And a good way of noticing where the bright spots are is by just simply blurring your image. And that way you can kind of get a sense of where the brights and the darks are. So you can see, if I just blur your image slightly here, that this foot is very bright. So my eye is drawn here, which I don't think you intend to do. So I would suggest to kind of bring this back down into shadow and not have it hit by the light so harshly, and kind of have your eye focus here in the center. So there you go, that's that. And once I see your reference, then we can start talking about, perhaps color of the light, the color of the shadow, that kind of scenario here. The balance might be a little bit like these darks might be getting a little bit too dark, but I'm not as concerned about it now until I see a reference. So let's move on to the next one. And here we are. I love your character. It's very nice. And I will just quickly take a look at it. And I also, in the same case, I looked up some kind of reference images just to give you a point of view of, a place to look when you're creating reference. And of course, I will wait for your reference as well. But looking at this, my initial reactions were, and I'm going to put these references on the side here so I can go back to it, is the shadow. Again, we're getting pretty sharp lines here. And depending on what look you're going for, then maybe that's okay. But right now, I think I'd like to see these soften just a touch. Another thing I'd say, especially in the body here, I'd like to see more shaping. It's falling kind of flat. So I'd love to see the light wrap around a little to create more shaping. And what I mean by this is it helps me, another trick that I like to do is sometimes the color can be distracting, especially when you're dealing with shaping, right? So you can turn your image to black and white to just see the values of the intensity, and you can see if there is good shaping here. And if you see this on the shirt especially, there is a little bit of shaping, but it's pretty monotone. The values don't change that much across the shirt. So what I'd love to see is more of a key wrap going on here. So you get this area where the key is, you're getting it kind of on the face, but this gets a little bit brighter. And then it wraps around kind of a gradual wrap, so then it fades to the fill side. And then one thing I will say, the fill side is feeling a little glowy here. So I think you can go a little bit darker on the fill side, especially looking at it in black and white. And I'll bring it back in color. And the next thing I'll say is the hat is also feeling a little bit flat. And I brought up the reference, but I didn't talk about the reference. So the reference I brought up were The Incredibles and then a shot from Epic. And both of them are similar to the lighting that you have now. For example, The Incredibles here has the key coming from screen right and a kind of a strong rim light. Again, your rim light could definitely go stronger. The positioning is definitely in the right spot and it's going in the right direction, but you can push that even further. So if you look at this, especially if you put this in black and white, then you can definitely see how strong that rim light is. And the rim light is actually stronger than the key side. And it kind of acts to not only shape the characters, but it pops them off of one another. Because you can see this is a cheat, right? And they're using that to kind of separate and pop those characters off one another as well. And this is a good way to kind of pop the characters off the background when you have a background in there. And then when we look at this Epic shot, it's very similar, not as great of a contrast. I chose it because it's a little bit smoother, a little bit more lit. But you notice both of them do not have sharp shadows. It's a nice gradual fade into the fill side in this one as well. So if we go back to yours, we can see that that's what I mean, that could use work. This, like I said, the bounce might be a little too high. It's feeling a little too filled in and glowy. This could use some more shaping. And then the hat too, I feel like could have some nice shaping. Maybe it gets darker where it hits the head and then it fades, it catches the light a little bit more. Not sure, but definitely the key is shaping. Like if you look at here in these shoulders, it's just too much area where it's the same intensity. But overall, I think it's a really great start. And again, I can't wait to see your reference and see where you go from there. And from there, we can talk about the color of light, And then it definitely helps to put this in a background, just depending on what your reference is. If you're going for, a studio lighting scenario that's just against a gray or white or black backdrop, then that's totally fine. We can do studio lighting. But if you do choose a reference that's like a specific time of day, let's say, it'd be great to see this against a backplate like that so that we can integrate him and the spirit into a specific background. And then you can really start playing with colors and balance and whatnot. So yeah, I can't wait to see what we have coming up next. Thanks.